Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. And welcome to a new month, I guess. I was thinking of making a video for April Fool's, but I decided not to. I decided against it. But anyway, as it's April, I'm hoping for April, May, and June to focus on my ideas for trying to empower Asia and Asian nations, mainly, and the people of Asia. As well as possibly those of Asian descent, but especially Asia, the continent itself, and look at ways to help them to further grow their economies. And I hope my ideas can be of help. As for other months, I focus on Africa and that kind of thing. But as I didn't get to do this yesterday, partly I forgot and partly I was out and I didn't manage to do it. And I didn't make a decision on what to make. But ideally, if I would have remembered, I would have done it last night or yesterday, which is my idea is to link Africa and Asia. And I thought, as Egypt is symbolically, I think Egypt is the only nation, if I'm not mistaken, which is a transcontinental country, i.e. a country between two continents. For those who might not know what it means, between Africa and Asia. So it's partly in Africa and partly in Asia. A lot of people think it's in Asia and a lot of people think it's in Africa, but I think technically speaking it's in both continents because of the way it's located. So I think symbolically it could be a great place to bring together Asian and African countries to network. And again, I would have done that yesterday as I was transitioning across from my goals to empower, my goals and dreams to empower Africa towards Asia. I would have loved to have done more on empowering Africa, but I didn't quite get around to it for whatever reason. I talked about March for Victory, but it didn't quite work out that way. By the way, as it's April Fool's, I hope no one got fooled too badly, and I hope if people do pranks and stuff like that, I hope they do so in a safe way without injuring each other or whatever. I hope you stay safe, most importantly, and hopefully healthy and happy and that kind of thing. All those important things. I can't remember what else I was going to say. I think there was something else I was going to say, waffling away. But yeah, I say I hope you stay safe, and if you do prank each other, I hope you do so dangerously. I hope it's a safe sort of prank. I remember a while back I pranked one of my friends by saying we'll meet up in the pub. And so I told my other friend and he said it was a really great idea, but then he said, does he know where you live? I said, yeah. He said, okay, it's not such a great idea then, but yeah, it was a silly little prank I did. But I hope if you do pranks on each other, you'll stay safe, most importantly, and not put yourself or anyone else in danger. And that's what I was going to say, actually. Prank videos, I'm not too keen on them myself personally. I suppose I'm not very organised either, so that's probably one of the reasons why I don't do them as well. But anyway, this intro did go on a couple of minutes longer than planned. But here are my dreams for uniting together Africa and Asia, and symbolically for Egypt to be a bridge, just like our Central Africa, to be a bridge between, especially the country Central Africa and the region of Central Africa, to be a bridge between all of Africa, and Central Asian nations to be between all the Asian nations, and to have an Asian alliance in Central Asia and across Central Asia. I would love for Africa and Asia to have like buildings which work together, which bring the African and Asian Union together sometimes, or the Asian Alliance and African Union together, the Asian Alliance of which I wish to make, to work together. One of the things is, anyway, I'm going to crack on with the list so I can cover a lot of things I was going to say in the intro, but I think the intro went on long enough. But so here goes. So number one, I know there's a lot of distrust between, let's say, China and a lot of African countries, although they do trade together. A lot of people see that China is putting them into a debt trap, which could be true, I've got to say, but I hope they find a way which will be mutually beneficial, and look at what they have in common, and look at how they can come together towards a mutual benefit. So hopefully it'll benefit all of Asia and all of Africa as much as possible, businesses and that kind of thing across Asia and Africa, so they can trade with each other, and obviously they will create employment and things like that. So I hope they can build trust and get rid of any distrust, and show that they do want to actually support each other and improve relations between Africans and Asians. I often think of this like with nations that want to trade with Africa. I know many want to focus on Asia this month and in May and June, but nations that want to trade with Africa, I think they should be, the African nations should say, what are you going to do to actually benefit our people and make sure we get rights and you don't trample on us, and you train some of our young people in areas like STEM and things like that. But I hope they can look at what they have in common, like the fact they were colonized. Many of them, pretty much all of Africa, are republics, which I hope to come to. and most of Asia, I think, also a lot of Asia are Republican. Um, Number two, I hope as what they can learn from each other and look at what they can learn about each other. So Asians and Africans doing trips to each other's countries, helping each other's tourism and trade, development, and that kind of thing, which I suppose they do in a way, sending delegates, but also people can learn about each other and learn how to respect each other's countries and look at again what they have in common, like the fact they were colonized and stuff like that. So I hope Africans can learn about Asia and vice versa. They can tour each other's countries as much as possible, have cultural exchange trips and things like that. And the Asian Development Bank and African Development Bank, I think there's an African Development Bank, and if there's not, they could perhaps make some that, or they can make one organisation which could be the African Development Bank. I'm pretty sure there is one already, but that could look at how to invest in businesses and sponsor them and help them to become successful and that kind of thing. So they can look at I hope to come to, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but I hope that the Asian Development Bank and African Development Bank, as I say, maybe even working together, maybe even pooling money and resources together, could invest in and look at how they can benefit. I was thinking recently about how I would love to see how the Asian Development Bank can invest in Asian businesses and help them to grow and things like that. Number three, I'd love to promote libertarianism across both Africa and Asia, and I hope that many events between the African Union and the Asian Alliance will look into how they can promote libertarianism, human rights, animal rights, basically freedoms and things like that. Learning about libertarianism, sharing ideas about libertarianism, basically information about what libertarianism is, and things like that. Number four, I hope they can promote peace amongst each other. I think the African Union, and again, if there's an Asian alliance, I think they should do similar. Should look at ways sorry, I had a terrible feeling I hadn't gone live on Facebook. I have, but yeah. So looking at ways they can promote peace amongst each other, prevent conflict and things like that. So if I think there's recently been flare-ups between Ethiopia and Somalia and things like that, so I would love to see them nip those things in the bud. In other words, put a stop to them and limit them at least as much as possible. Hopefully limit them completely. So put a stop to them, prevent them as much as possible. As I say, prevention is better than cure. So I hope they can look at ways to make peace across Africa and Asia, look at ways to cut crime, improve security, and things like that. With my fellow Eurasians, I would love for us to look at how we can improve security, especially for Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, and link those five nations together to keep their citizens as safe as possible, but also encourage them not to invade others, which is something I also wish to discourage. I wish to discourage war, invading other nations and things like that. Number five, I hope that there's a way to support Africans and Asians as individuals with their ambition as well as nations generally, so their goals of how to grow their economies, like India's goal to become a $5 or even $10 trillion economy. I hope to help India and other nations across Asia and Africa to make as much money as possible. I know money isn't everything, but that's the only way I can think of helping them. And I have some controversial views, I know, but I'd love to find ways to prevent war between China and Taiwan and places like that. So one thing I was thinking of is something I'm going to include in part three. I was going to include it, but I think I'm going to include it in part three. Number six, I would love to encourage people from Asia and Africa to support Italian football teams, Serie A. So I'd love for the Italian national team and Italian teams generally, especially Serie A teams, but maybe Serie B, Serie G teams, or however you pronounce it, and basically Italian teams generally, even at youth level and schools, maybe to do trips across Asia and Africa and to get to play football as much as possible and promote football. And especially in Egypt itself, maybe they could be like when Asian and African nations meet up, maybe Italian football teams, soccer teams, calcio teams, footy teams, whatever they call them, can meet up as well in Egypt and talk to African and Asian leaders and people from Africa and Asia and promote Serie A in the Italian league, i.e. the Italian league, sorry, in the wrong order, across Africa and Asia. I feel like an April Fool right now, but I hope I don't get tricked by one. But anyway, number 7, probably quite easy to trick me, to be fair. But number 7, I would love to also to promote Celtic across Africa and Asia. And again, maybe it's a club they could work in Egypt when they host those events, which I hope they'll host between African and Asian nations, to promote Egypt, to promote Celtic, a big fun, as well as the town football, Syria and that kind of thing. And they can network together and practice and train together, and hopefully train with some of the local youth, practice their football and stuff like that together. So I hope it'll be a mutual benefit. And maybe as part of the deal, Italian fans and Celtic fans could look at how they could benefit Asian and African businesses. That's my quirky, neurodiverse and mad ideas that play there. So yeah, I hope they will find ways to promote Italian football team, the national team and club teams, as well as Celtic, and I hope it will mutually benefit. So I hope Italian football and Celtic will benefit, but also African and Asian nations will benefit through industry and that kind of thing, grow their economies. So I hope Egypt can host a lot of those events, inviting Italian football and Celtic to be able to promote itself across Asia and Africa, and for Italian teams and Celtic to have as many academies and supporters clubs like CSCs, Celtic supporters clubs, across Asia and Africa, as many of them as possible. Number 8, I hope for Asian and African nations to talk about positive things they love about each other. So, positive things about each other. So Asians talk about what they love about African countries, what they think are some positive things, maybe even things they could learn and that kind of thing. And Africans do the same for Asia, of course. And again, positive things about Italian football and Celtic as well. Number 9, I hope to promote Asian and African poetry, art and writing, and look at again how they can network together and learn from each other, how they can help each other to promote, market, and ultimately sell their things around the world, like their poetry, art, writing, and other things. And number 10, I hope to support African and Asian YouTubers, TikTokers, and social media influencers, content creators, and that kind of thing as much as possible, which I hope will benefit their economies as well. I suppose it is quite hard to make a lot of money, I think, on YouTube. So, but maybe I'm being naive as ever, but maybe I'm being naive before again. But I'd love to see what they could do to, if they could make money from YouTube and therefore benefit their economies. So supporting, as I say, content creators, influencers, or whatever you call them, from across Africa and Asia. And as ever, I'd love to know what you think about each point I raised, and the points I raised, and anything else you want to comment in the comment section. And peace and love. Again, hope you stay safe and don't get fooled too badly. And I'm out.